We need a motion to resume.
Need a motion to resume? We recessed, I suppose we should reconvene.
Um,
Motion to reconvene,
Go
I'll
ahead.
make that motion.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about the delay. We will try to make up time as the meeting progresses. You got that, Mark? I see we have an additional critical issue. Patty Norgard from the EDA is here to discuss and present the Light Up the Dam picture.
Thank you. Councilman Rowe and fellow council members. As we get ready to announce the winner of our Take the Dam Picture contest, I thought there were a few interesting factoids about it, and we had 8 photos. We had entries from Chicago, Minneapolis, Lakeville, Eagan, and Brainerd. Some photographers submitted 2 photos. However, all of these people had ties to Cross Lake in one way or another, as friends, family, or seasonal homeowners. So it was really fun to know that they enjoy Cross Lake as much as we do who live here. So, before we give the grand announcement, I do want to thank a few of the people who have really helped light up Cross Lake and light up the dam this past year. And first of all, a big thank you to the residents and all of the businesses who helped support our effort this year. We had a lot of great comments, and it was a community effort, and it brought a great spirit to Cross Lake this year. Also, thanks to Dan and Betty at Ace Hardware, and to Ted Strand and his crew at Public Works, who strung lights on the dam and around the town. Thank you, Ted. We also had a great bunch of volunteers who helped decorate the dam, and also volunteers who helped our first movie night at the dam and our first holiday at the dam event. And as you may hear us talk later on, or whenever you hear the words Cross Lake, we have a lot of words on how we've used dam. We're trying to get Andy's to do a dam burger for us. Last but not least, we had a great Light Up the Dam committee. Jeff Laurel, who is our treasurer, Bill Burry from the Railroad Club, Joe Bierman from the Historical Society, former Mayor Darrell Schneider, Mary Plain from the Paul Bunyan Scenic Highway, Joe Dorfler from the Cross Lake Idea Alliance, Cindy Mugato from the Cross Lake Chamber of Commerce, Jason Hauser, Miranda Peters, Deb Griffith, all led by Corrine Hodap from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at the Pine River Federal Dam right here in Cross Lake. And representing EDA, that's myself, Patty Norgard. So, drum roll, please. And just to let the audience know, the winner of this first annual event, the council were the judges. So if you want to talk about why didn't this person get that, why didn't that person, there they are. Anyway, our first winner in the contest was photo number 2, and that is Ryer Mulder from Chicago. And his parents have a cabin seasonal home up here on Little Pine. So that was taken in November. The second place winner is number 8, and you can see all these photos. They're out in the hall on the board, and that was Chase Nelson from Brainerd. And then our third place winner was Ray Gensinger from Lakeville, Minnesota. So all the photos will be on display at Andy's just in time for Winterfest, and the winning photo will also be on display at the Army Corps, the City Hall, and Cross Lake Chamber. So thank you, City Council, for doing a fantastic job selecting the winners of our first annual Take the Dam Picture contest. And I'll put this up here. Do you know how to work this?
I can try.
Okay. So you can all see what the winner looks like.
You just set it on there.
Just lay it down here? Oh, isn't that just gorgeous? So there you go. And actually, I think we need to give everyone a hand who helped us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. Tonight's meeting is going to be very organizational, administrative in nature, and if there are no more critical issues, we'll move on to C, and we will now designate the acting mayor. The acting mayor is designated in the absence of the elected mayor, and I would propose that Mark Wessels be the acting mayor. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion that Mark's the acting mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We now have the appointment of two ex officio Fire Relief Association members. That would be the mayor and the finance director, treasurer. That means it would be me and Mike Lyons. We need a motion.
Also move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the schedule of the regular council meetings, which is the second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. That is no change. Need a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Mayor, this probably isn't the time to do it, but we do have to talk about the February meeting, towards the end of this meeting, about rescheduling that perhaps.
Okay, let's
Okay?
finish this one.
All right, very good. Thank you,
And
sir.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We have a conflict for the February meeting, however. And Mark, you might as well, you opened the subject, let's talk about it a little bit.
We have a couple council members who are in Mexico or someplace we all want to be with, and they didn't invite us with either. But they're going to be gone for sure, and I may be gone that meeting as well. The end of January, I know Mr. Linus has got a bonding, rebonding issue or something that has to get done. So we need to have a meeting at some point, but I'm not sure if they were able to get that done for you in January.
Sure, just to remind everyone, we've back in November, the council approved the resolution to refund the bonds at the phone company. And that's been in process since then. It takes a little bit of time to do that. Where we're standing right now is we're going through the final documentation of calling the bonds, issuing them, and what we'll need to do is have a conditional call for redemption and the resolutions that go with that. And we were originally scheduling to do that at our meeting in February, but since there's conflicts to do that, I'd suggest we do it the last week of January, maybe that last Thursday in January.
Last Monday?
Thursday,
Thursday?
yeah. That'll give the bond
As late
advisors-
as we can before, are
As
you
close as we
guys
can.
still in town?
Yeah.
I'm not in town then.
You're not in town then either, okay. When do you leave, Gary?
Can you be here for the last Monday?
I can be there the 26th, 27th, or 28th.
As late as you want.
Are you going to be ready by the 26th?
We should be, yes. I can confirm that tomorrow.
Well, any one of those days works. Does anybody have a preference? Can everybody be here on the 28th? That's the latest that we can schedule it. They have a quorum here.
I can be here that date.
Is
I
that
can be
right?
here the 28th.
Need a motion. The February meeting will be held. Need a motion for that.
On January 28th.
January 28th,
I'll make that motion.
that's a Wednesday.
Yep.
Motion Hecox?
I'll second, is that at 7 PM?
Wessels?
7 PM, Mr. Mayor, is that at 7 PM?
Let's
or-
make it
Yes,
the
7 p.m.
regular 7 PM time.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman and members, I won't be here that night, but I don't think I'm needed to be here. I think
No.
Mike and our financial advisor will be here. Well, David
Well, can you
Drones
make it the
will be here.
26th or 27th?
Yeah, I can make it either of those two nights, but I can't
Well,
make
then let's do the
28th.
27th. I'll amend my motion.
I'll amend my second.
All right, we're now on the 27th, on a Tuesday.
Yep. And I won't be here either, but I wouldn't be any of those days, so I would think you can carry on without me.
We thought you were going to contribute to that, Brad.
The bond?
Yeah,
I have no comment.
all right. We now have a motion and a second for the February meeting to be held January 27th on Tuesday. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Next is the appointment of the official newspaper. It's currently the Northland Press. We also have a letter from the Echo Publishing with their rates. However, policy dictates that if we have a newspaper whose office is within the community boundaries, they should be given preference. That would be the Northland Press. Anybody want to make a motion? I'll move that the Northland Press be our official publication. Is there a second?
Second.
Second with Brad. I think one of the things we should understand, and I talked to Shar about this earlier, is that when this is for normal announcements and so forth, but when we have big projects, multi-dollar projects, road projects, et cetera, that we're going out for bid on, we do advertise in other local papers. All in favor of the Northland Press?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. City engineer, appointment of city engineer. We have two letters, one from the, we'll call him the incumbent, Woodseth Smith and Nolting, and another letter of interest from Bolton and Mink. The letter of interest is really not a proposal, but they are indicating that they would be interested if we are seeking a replacement engineering firm. I think that WSN has got years of experience. They've been very cooperative, even when we have other firms doing work for us, and I've worked with them. I would appreciate a motion to nominate WSN for 2015 as
I'll
our
make
city
that
engineer.
motion, Mr. Mayor. We retain WSN.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Hecox. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We also have a memo from myself concerning commission and committee liaison, actually committee liaison appointments. Brad, can you put one of those on the overhead so we can see who we're working on? There should be a new one out here.
Is that the latest one?
No, but that's okay. Looking for. Oh, yeah, this one's right. Right? Shar? All right. We have Building and Grounds, Brad Nelson, Communication Liaison, Brad Nelson. I would comment that Building and Grounds basically has, I always kind of kidded about it, it has to do with the height of grass and the color of the buildings. Economic Development Authority, Steve Rowe, Mark Wessels. Park and Recreation Library, Mark Wessels. Personnel Committee, Steve Rowe, Dave Schrupp. The Finance Director, who is Mike Lyonnaise, and the local, we call her the local manager, it's actually Deb Florshinger from the Communications Company. Planning and Zoning, Gary Hecox. Public Safety, myself, the Fire Chief, Police Chief, and the City Administrator / Consultant, Dan Vogt. Public Works, Dave Schrupp. Recycling, Gary Hecox. He's told me I will help him, and we'll pass that one off to him. And Emergency Management Director, Bob Hartman. And I think we can approve all of those with one motion if you are so inclined. I'll make a motion, we approve them. Need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? I hear a hesitancy, so question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next one we have is another note from me. Commission appointments. I am proud to announce that, Brad, if you got the most recent one that includes Jim Talbot?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. I'm pleased to announce that there are no changes here. Everyone has been contacted, they've agreed to extend their commissions. And so we will entertain a motion to approve this list.
Also move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The consent calendar is next. All items here are listed that are to be considered or can be considered as routine by the city council. Will be acted on by one motion, and there will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or a council member wants one of them identified and pulled for later discussion. This one is very routine.
I'll move to accept the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion Wessels, second Nelson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a public forum. No action will be taken on any items brought to the podium at this time, and if appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. The speaker must state their name and address, and each speaker is given 3 minutes to speak. However, if the speaker feels that 3 minutes is too tight, they can have another 3 if they announce it and ask for it. There'll be no more than that. Decorum at the podium. No hats, no bad mouthing. And it's an attempt to coordinate and work together. And I think that we're all capable of that, so I look forward to hearing from the public. The public forum is now in session. Anybody want to speak? Anybody have an issue they want to talk about? This isn't even sporting. Come on, guys.
Mr. Rowe, that's a good sign.
It may be. Thank you. There is another one at the end in case we arouse somebody's curiosity or issue. Mayor's report is next. I really, and it's really funny, if we don't get a public forum, I don't know how we would get attendance at a town hall meeting. I would like to hold a town hall meeting just to get input from people where we can discuss things back and forth. The council should be present. It would be announced as though it were a council meeting. However, the council would not chair it. We need a citizen chair to run the town hall meetings and to moderate it. I think we would, my proposal would be to hold them here ahead of the regular scheduled city council meetings. So we would probably call them at 6 PM on the day of the council meeting, of the regular council meeting, and go forward from there. There are many issues in town. I think a lot of us have things we'd love to chat about, check and see where our neighbors are, and move forward on those. The other piece is that there are many things where the city may want to know what the council's plan is. Most things we can talk about. I will tell you that personnel issues, human resources issues are probably not public. And so anything but that is fair game. Again, a positive attitude would be really appreciated. Yeah. So I guess what I would say is if anybody wants a town hall meeting, wants to be heard on a subject, or wants to discuss with their neighbors and/or the council, I assure you it would be much like a public forum, except it would be much more free rein, much more open. Probably no action would be taken, but we would air some things that need to be aired. And that's where I am on that. And if you're interested, contact Shar. and she'll put it on the agenda. I will assure you that agended items will get a lot more time than a public forum item, and so it could be kind of interesting. That concludes my report for tonight on the mayor. Mr. Vogt.
Probably a record number of items for me this evening. I'm going to get a lot of help from a lot of staff here, but item one is the memo dated January 7th, 2015, from the city clerk regarding the 2015 fee schedule. You'll note that the changes are either struck through or items that are proposed to be deleted and noted in red as far as the adjustments. Your department heads and planning consultant, et cetera, are here if you have any questions with regards to the proposals. If there are no questions, staff recommends approval of the 2015 rate schedule as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question.
Sir.
On page 2 of that, at the top, there's a special council meeting request. Has anybody actually ever came in and paid that to get a special council we have? Since I've been here, I don't think so.
Usually it happens from the planning and zoning side. If they get denied something and they need to appeal it and they're in a hurry.
I see, okay.
It has happened before, yes.
Okay.
And it should be noted that council members can call, the mayor can call one, any two councilmen can call a special meeting, and so if the city or the citizens need one, they should contact a council member, and we put that together.
You need a motion for that? I'll make that motion to approve. Council action motion on the fee schedule. That's on G1,
Just a second.
if you're ready for that.
I don't know. Oh, I see what that came from.
I see we have council
I
action
see there
motion.
was quite an increase in one of the planning and zoning fees. What was that? I can't see it now.
Oh, I think on page 2 also, Mr. Rowe, is that?
Page
Well,
2.
that's Public Works, I guess, there.
Was it Public Works? Anyway, we need a second on his motion. Oh, there it is, Public Works. Petition to vacate. All right, fair enough. They're a little more complicated. Anyway, you made a motion?
I made a motion to approve number 1, yep.
Motion Wessel, second Schrupp. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 2, a memo dated January 7th, 2015, from John Henke regarding salary increase for community center part-time employees. As you can see in the memo from the park director, the employees do work an average of 44 hours a week for the 5 people. Current rate is $8.45 an hour, haven't had a raise in a lot of years. And the park department is recommending $9 per hour effective January 1st, 2015.
Also move.
I'll second.
Motion Wessel, second Hecox. Comment, I see that they were budgeted for, so we shouldn't have a problem with them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 3, accepting a resignation from retiring employee. You see the letter of resignation from Bruce. I don't know how to say that last name, I guess.
Evan Mueller.
Okay. Effective January 31st, 2015, and the recommendation would be to accept the notice of retirement and perhaps the letter, or someone could pen a letter to Bruce in appreciation of his service to the city and wishing him well in his retirement.
You'll make sure that letter gets sent or gets put forth?
Sure.
All right. All in favor? Or no, excuse me, motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion Hecox, second Wessels. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Item 4, memo dated January 8th, 2015, from the Public Works Director regarding the purchase of a 2015 pickup. As you can see, the the pickup, the proposal is for a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500. The price, including the plow package, is $28,427.53, would be purchased through the Minnesota State contract, and that was with Nelson Auto this year of Fergus Falls. I think they've had the GMC bid for quite a while with the state contract. For those new people, if you're understanding of the state contract, maybe the league information put it together, but the state goes out for bids, and they pick the bidder, so we don't have to go out for bids ourselves. So the competitive bidding laws are handled by the state, and then we can attach ourselves to their bidding process. So it really works out well for us. The existing vehicle would be transferred to the Park Department, and just for your information, there was $34,000 in the budget for this purchase, so it comes in quite a bit under budget. State contract is really to get a I think that's four-wheel drive, Ted? To get a pickup like this? Four-wheel drive. It's four-wheel drive with a plow, and to get a pickup like that with a plow for $28,000 is a real good price.
How many miles are on the existing truck, Ted? How many?
Just 100,000.
100,000.
Pushing snow and all kinds of stuff, right? Hey, I have a question for you. Did you order a power seat in this one? For the driver's side, they said you can hardly fit in the one you've got. That's meant to be complimentary, by the way.
No, sir, I did not.
You should.
I didn't think it was necessary.
Okay, that's up to you.
Okay.
Yep.
This is, as I said, a budgeted item, so our approval would be recommended.
Can I ask a question about 4, 5, and 6? The capital, this is in the capital budget. And I've heard, Mike's got a letter in here where he wants to get equipment loan at 1.5%. In the letter, he mentions there's no fire truck in the capital budget for this year, but he's recommending to do it. I don't have any problem with fire trucks. I think they have to be compliant. I think ours is quite old. But we have a lot of money still in the 2015 capital budget, things that we're going to spend money on, and we don't have enough money to cover hardly any of it. You've talked about a loan, but even after that, there's still over $500,000 on other items that are in there that weren't removed, like the roads and the fire truck. So I'm just saying that before we go ahead with a motion on this one, I think we need to look at all of these things that we're going to talk about in 4 and 5 and 6, and if you're going to lump them into some equipment loan, which is what I heard might happen, then we do it.
If I can,
This
Mr.
one is budgeted, is it not?
Yeah,
Dan?
this one is outside of that equipment loan. There is a substantial amount of money that is budgeted for all of this equipment, and that's already in there. That's paid for. We have some big items that were outside of what was already budgeted, and those were the fire truck, the street repairs that we had. We talked about, if we do an equipment certificate, we talked about running ourselves all the way through 2019, or to 2019 with that, so we wouldn't have to budget those items again. So there's kind of two phases to this. One is items that are already, they're budgeted for, the tax levy will come in, and will be paid for by the taxes that we'll receive. And then the other part of it is the items that are outside of that budget, which is the fire truck and the equipment that I mentioned in the memo. So that's kind of two phases. You can do it whichever way you'd like. If you'd like to have that discussion, it comes up, 2 items down. If you'd like to have that discussion later and hold off on this, you certainly can do that.
I guess I can claim I'm a new guy and I'm ignorant.
No,
But we have, after we, and I know the capital budget is kind of a rough plan. But when you do the rough plan and you take out a truck for $450,000, a fire truck, and roads and trails for $547,000, and you still have $997,000 in capital outlays for this year, and Mike says we're going to end up with $350,000 $38,000 or something like that in the capital, to be used for the capital stuff. Plus, we're talking about getting a loan.
The 338 is what's left over after, I mean, making this, if you make this purchase of this truck, I mean, that doesn't come out of that 338.
That's not what he said.
No, yeah, go ahead.
That's not what, the way I read the memo,
Yeah.
that there's going to
Why-
be, we're going
yeah.
to take some of
Why
that.
don't-
We co-wrote.
Wait a minute.
I'm just saying we should talk about all of this stuff at one time because it's,
Why don't we wait till item 6, and then you can, let's cover all of these. I realize that this, we're on the pickup truck,
Yeah.
which was budgeted as a capital expenditure, but we were going to pay for it. And I think that, it took me a while to catch up with you as well on some of these. I don't have a problem with that, I don't think. The only problem is I've got a vehicle with 250,000 miles on it, so, you know, we can go around on that. I just.
Well, it'll still stay in the system because Parks Department's going to put another 100,000 on it.
Yeah,
so.
right. But anyway, let's wait till you get down to your piece, and and I agree that Dave has got an excellent point, where both of us are kind of conservative financially. But let's address this. Do you want to address this one now, or should we put this after we understand item 6?
Whichever way you're more comfortable. If you want to wait till after item 6, after we discuss that and maybe get more familiar, at least the two new people, more familiar with how the capital budgeting works.
Let's
we can
hold
wait
on
that.
item 4, and we'll address that just before,
Yep.
within 6.
Not a
But
problem.
we can do 5.
Yeah,
Because that one's-
item 5 is, towards the end of last year, you went out with, for bids on some excess equipment, and that included the 2001 Bobcat, the Root snow blower, and a 2003 Cat 135H grader. You went out to receive bids on that equipment. We put minimum bids on based on what we could get somewhat on a snow blower, and this is item 5, G5. And you see the information from the city clerk for the bids that we received. The Bobcat was, the high bid on that was, there's only one bid for each, but Luke Gens, $23,600. The minimum bid was $20,000. The snow blower is Henry Construction, 3101. Minimum bid was $3,000. And then the grader is Robert Crace, $77,610.15. The minimum bid was $75,000 on that piece of equipment. We did note that after hearing there were no bids received on the loader, that Heavy Iron Company, I think south of here, their 320 phone number, submitted a bid on Wednesday, January 7th, which was after the bid date, in the amount of $75,500. The required minimum bid on that, again, was $75,000. The trade-in is $75,000. That's what we can get on it. Did talk to, or had communication with Brad today, the city attorney, just to make sure that even if it came in after the bid, are we okay with this? It's under 100,000, so you've got bidding thresholds there from the state, but you also have, two different prices. You know what Ziegler would give us for a trade-in, and you know what this other company would give you at $75,500, which is more than what Ziegler would give. So I don't think at this point, Brad, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there'd be a problem to award to Henry. It's $500 more than Ziegler would give us, so.
There's a gentleman out here that apparently is your question concerning the topic we're on?
He needs to get up to the mic.
Come up here, we can't hear you.
What's that?
This is probably out of order, but it's within the topic we're discussing, and I think you should be heard.
Phil from North Fork Boulders and Excavating, and I missed the bid too, and that's why I'm here tonight. I would give $77,000 for the loader.
I'm
then-
wondering if, you get into that, going back and forth, I don't know if we should just go back out for bids or what we
Maybe I
should
could
do.
just explain the law on the subject. Some of this is more of it's not a legal answer, it's more about what process do you want to have, and from a fairness standpoint. But what he was getting at is if it's over 100,000, we have rules we have to follow.
Yep,
If it's under 100,000, if we get 2 quotes, that suffices to pass the legal requirements. But you started a process with asking for bids, and so now we're back into, you can legally do this. Politically, though, or from a parents' standpoint, you don't want to have people bidding against one another at different times and so on. So now that we've seen yet another bid, the other bid would be allowable. Now it's up to the council to decide, now that we've got another one, actually two
How many
beyond the...
bids have you got for this
Well, you
unit
have
now?
you have the trade-in value of 75,
Well, that's kind of like wholesale.
and you got one bid already late, so we should make that point. The bid that you see there was not on time either.
Right.
And now you have a second one, also after the deadline. Options might be, you can, even on the other ones, you can reject any bid. So you might choose to reject all bids and maybe start a process over again, now that people were kind of late to the show. You could just take the highest number, because that's the highest number. I think you have the discretion to do as you wish.
Well,
It's
should we
just-
start over on this unit and advertise for it?
Well, you don't want to get into the position where, like on some of the, let's say on some of these other ones, you have a bid, pick one, the grader. He followed the rules, submitted a bid. He didn't know what others would offer. That's the whole point of a bid, is you don't know what anybody else is going to do.
Right.
You don't want it so that someone can just show up and then I'll give $5 more. That kind of ruins the process. I'm not blaming him in particular. Just, we want to think of how the process should work. Not just for this one, but for, we'll have other surplus equipment,
Yep.
and we want to kind of be consistent.
And I would have bidded on it in time, but I had two other guys that was interested in it, and I didn't want to step on their toes. So I backed off, and then come to find out they didn't bid at all. That really made me kind of upset, but, I mean, I'd write you a check tonight for it if you would accept it.
Mr. Mayor, to keep the process clean, if I might.
I agree.
And if I can ask for clarification, we can accept the bids that we have on the three items and not this one, or are they all lumped together? We have to do them all together?
You can do them one by one. So
individually.
you might choose, for example, the Bobcat got well over trade, the other couple were barely over. You could say, I think we should hold on to them for a while and see if we can't get a better, I mean, you can go one by one. It's not take it or leave it.
But, and then what I guess I'm getting at is that, so we could put the last item on there, on the loader, we could extend that bidding process by a week and get written bids, or what's the process for time? That's the thing.
Well,
This guy would like to buy it, that guy would like to buy it, I'm sure they'd like to have it in their garage in a few days.
If you choose not to do it today, what I'd recommend is get back with, Mr. Strand is the one that organized the process, but if it was me, I would probably tell all parties what's kind of gone on in terms of what's been thrown out there for numbers, tell everybody what just happened, and then say, we're going to delay this and have another deadline of, pick a date, give them a few weeks, and try over again.
My concern is Heavy Iron comes back and says, well, I would have paid $77.5, and then we're into this deal. So-
Well, no, but he has a chance, though,
right,
because it's going to be
right.
sealed again.
Yeah, that's what I mean, if we do it for another week and it's sealed bids
And
again,
that's an auction service.
right, so I mean,
There's another agreement among contractors that when a legal authority does this, everybody stands still, and they all repeat the bids they offered. And so you really just only burn time and energy. I'm not advocating anything here. I'm just saying to you, most likely what would happen is that the honor among these guys, he already told us he didn't want to step on somebody's toes. Now, he should have bid before, but he didn't. I don't know.
Question, does certain government agencies have to pay sales tax on certain types of equipment? Do we pay sales tax on this type of equipment? Does the city of Cross Lake have to pay sales tax?
We did it one time.
No, we don't.
They
We did it
repealed
one
that.
time, we don't on
Okay,
this, no.
thank you. That's all I was wondering. Well, don't we have a situation where 3 of the 4 pieces of equipment, 3 of them were sold according to the rules that were
We have to
presented?
approve it tonight, but they are.
And those
bid
we could approve, and
those-
this other one we could
Those are
just...
clean. Now, it'd
Go
be
out
interesting, if he came up here and said, well, if you sold the blade for that, I'll offer you, and he makes another offer. So I'm questioning whether this is valid at all. But since we didn't get a bid on it in timely fashion anyway, maybe we should advertise the loader and let them go at it again.
I think you have to legitimately put this back up for bid. It just doesn't look good. If the other bid had come in on time and they were the only bidder and they were over the minimum, then game on, it's theirs. But this just doesn't look good. I appreciate this gentleman's bid, but that doesn't look good if you can come in and pick your number after the fact. And that's kind of what's happening here. You know, and I mean, in all fairness, I just say that I think this needs to, I make a motion that you put that piece of equipment up for rebidding.
Which is the loader,
Yep.
right?
I'll second that. Do you want to accept, well, your bid, your motion is what your motion is?
So
Okay.
we're going to re-advertise the loader, and any other discussion? I think we had quite a bit here already.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, we'll try to do that as quickly as we can.
Yep.
'Cause, if you're inclined to move forward with the equipment certificates, we want to get all of the numbers put together so that we're doing exactly what we want to do as far as the equipment goes,
Well,
so.
You know where this one is already.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Can I ask another question, not to delay things, but don't we want to accept the other 3 bids and maybe put a note in there that if this little bidding takes place in the next 5 days and it's over our minimum bid, which is $75,000, that we accept it immediately and we don't have to come back here again on this? So he can get his equipment,
Well,
we can get our money, and we don't
let's-
have to wait until the end of the month.
You need to come back here.
Yeah?
Ted,
The
Council
only
has to
thing on the
approve it.
loader is, that's the only thing that I need to hold on to until I have a new one here. I can't get rid of a piece of equipment until I got another one here. So we can accept the bid, but realize I can't give it up. Everything else we're not utilizing right now, but that loader, we utilize just about every day. So I can't give that up until the new one is here. So there might be,
When?
well,
Don't know.
when you tell me
Okay.
that I can go ahead and I call them tomorrow, they're gonna give me a delivery date. And that's the date I can release the old loader to, when the new one comes in.
then you put that in the advertisement for bids.
Yes, I
Well,
will.
it seems that the cart kind of got before the horse a little bit here then. I mean, if you don't, until they give you, sir, a delivery date on your new loader, you can't afford to be without one, so was this thing really, should that thing have even been put up for sale quite yet?
Well, then we wanted to know what kind of money we were gonna get out of it.
Right.
That's part of it. How much we're gonna get in the equipment certificate or whatever.
Right.
We wanted to know what we could get out of it.
I got
Okay.
you.
Motion is on the table to re-advertise for the, what do we call
Loader.
that? The
Loader.
loader, a 930G cap loader. And we've had a discussion, we've had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so,
I'll make another motion,
yes, sir?
like Mr. Schrupp was talking about. Let's accept the 3 bids that we do have for the Bobcat, the snow blower, and the grader.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right, now,
How do we have to decide how long we're going to advertise that?
I think there's pretty standard procedures for that, isn't there? Brad?
Well, Ted would have a standard process. The only questions are back to the timing, and also the fact that he can't really, but as long as we clarify in the bidding process that
Well-
the timing is such that I can't really deliver possession until X date.
Well, we've got another
Yeah.
meeting scheduled the end of this month.
Yeah,
so
well, a couple
if
weeks
we can
away.
get this all
It's only
put
2 weeks
together,
away, yeah, not even 2 weeks, yeah.
It'll work.
Yep,
Okay?
all right.
All right, so you guys will advertise
Yes.
in the public media, the paper. Okay. Item 6.
Yeah, and this is where we're kind of get more into the probably the longest discussion perhaps of the evening as far as the capital budget goes. And maybe Mike wants to just kind of go through how the capital budget is working. We do have, a lot of what's in that budget is levied for, there will be money coming in for. However, there were some big items that were removed from that capital budget, and those included the fire truck, those included the streets. What our, and we've met with staff on a couple of occasions now, what our suggestion is to kind of three big things. One is equipment, the second item is the roads, the third item is the sewer plant. We think that we've got 2 out of those 3 basically handled. The sewer plant, at the bottom of the memo, we indicate that we have a bond issue that's retiring. This year, I think, is the last payment on that. Starting in 2016, we'll have $140,000 that we've been paying for debt service on that will come available. We no longer have to make those payments. We would propose that we take that $140,000, use it for the sewer plant. Over the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to have enough money, we think, to do the work on the sewer plant that's necessary. So we think the sewer plant is taken care of. The equipment part of it, we think if we issue $575,000 or so, and we've got to get the bids on all this equipment, and we've got to get all this put together, but we think that if we do a 4-year equipment certificate, and that's like a loan, but in government, I mean, the law, it's called equipment certificates. We're making payments. We think that a 4-year issue, the payments are going to be about $150,000, maybe a little less. We know that the interest rate's about 1.5%. We think it may be even a little less than that. We're using 1.5%. When we talk to our financial advisors, they're saying, 1.25% is probably where you're going to get equipment certificates at. It's like issuing a bond. So we used 1.5%, so we used a little bit on the higher end. But by doing this, we can buy a piece of fire apparatus. We can buy the equipment that we've talked about here, and I think there was a park tractor also that would be replaced. So for that $575,000 to use what's left in the current budget, there was excess revenue there of about $338,000 to use that, a portion of that, to pay that principal and interest. So take the 338 minus about 150 of that. So you'd have the money that's left out of that, about $188,000, we think, every year, or if you increase that, that would start the road portion of this. The Public Works Cemetery and Sewer Commission recommended to do some design plans and specifications on the Dream Island Bridge. We've gotten some information from WSN on that, and also to replace or fix the storm sewer improvements and the roadway about 450 feet of the west portion, or the worst portion, I should say, of Manhattan Point Boulevard. So, we think that we've got to start on a plan to address some capital needs. Now, the budget. I think the 5-year capital improvement budget, has some huge numbers as far as some street improvements goes. And the only way you can do those is, you're going to have a major increase. And the budget's set for this year. You can't increase the taxes this year, but a major tax increase or bonding. If you bond it, you're going to have to do it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, under Minnesota statute section 429. And if you do it under 429, you have to assess at least 20% of it. And I know your assessment policy right now doesn't allow that on a reconstruction, because 100%, I think, is picked up by the city right now, isn't it, Mark? I think that's the way it works.
On reconstruction, yes.
You can't just, that I know of, you can't just issue bonds to do improvements without either voter approval or some statutory authority to do that. And if you're going to try to fix roads, you're going to have to assess at least 20% of it, or you have to levy for it. And remember, a 10% increase in your levy only raised about $280,000, something like that, 290.
Raised
It's a little less than
100,000.
300.
A 10%, 4% raised 100 is 25 per,
It's about
25,000 per percentage.
In that
and round
area,
it for
about,
figuring.
in that, yeah, about 25, 28 or something like that. So it wasn't, even a 10% increase in levy, I'm not advocating that, of course, but it doesn't raise the kind of money that you need to do the roads. And that's the problem, that's the hurdle. Now, if you adjust, seems to me, if you do something with your assessment policy and you actually would have to assess some of it, now that's not very pleasing to do either, at least then you can bond for it and you can pay for it over time. Otherwise, I don't know how you bond for it. If you know of anything, Brad, let me know, but I don't know how you do it, either the voter approval or you got to raise taxes.
Mr. Rowe, a question that I have, and one of these projects that we want to, that was in one of the expenses, I think it was Anchor Point Road, for instance, is also including a trail. So the resurfacing of the road, again, our current policy is that Cross Lake pays for it. No money ever got put away for that, but that's the policy for it. If it needs to be done, as you're saying, we can't bond for it unless we're assessing part of it. But if part of the whole total package is for a trail that isn't currently there, that's a new item. I'm just asking, can we assess for the trail and bond for the road as how you mix those together and
Seems to
such,
me
I
you
don't
can.
know.
I-
Because it's
I
a
believe you
separate,
could.
it's a separate project technically, but we're gonna do it all at the same time to save cost. And of course, while we're doing that, we have to talk about, do we run fiber in there at the same time? So we have a lot of different things that could be, okay, our policy currently is we're gonna fix the road because we told you we would when we paved it in the first place, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But now we have these two new pieces. We're gonna bring fiber to you, we're gonna bring a trail to you. Could we blend that?
You can, it's just, on a given project, you need to be uniform. So if you have a trail on parts of the project and not in others, and with the road, obviously, the road's going to be everywhere. So I don't have a design in front of me, but you just got to be careful that you need to be consistent with everybody. And if some benefit from a trail and some don't, you could argue it benefits the whole peninsula. I don't know. We'd have to see a project to really analyze it. But there's some rules within in your assessment methodology that you have to, be careful of. But other than that, yes, you can definitely combine, it's one project, it's broken out into water, sewer, trail, it's one assessment.
Question, do we have to assess trails to the adjacent property owner because they are really a public benefit?
Well, you don't have to,
Oh, no, I mean,
if,
because it's technically
yeah,
not a road.
the assessment is to the benefiting properties. I mean, that's
No,
how the
but
assessment works.
trails don't benefit the property.
Then you don't,
That's
if
just
you
every
can't
guy
show
in the middle.
benefit, you can't assess it.
Well,
I don't know, maybe Dave has something to say.
hi, Dave.
Mr. Mayor, in the past, the city hasn't assessed trails. Okay, that's been a policy that's been set up to date. And for refurbishing or resurfacing existing paved roads, there haven't been assessments. Okay. As far as the 20% requirement in the statute to assess a project, my understanding that there is a method by adoption of the 5-year capital improvement plan and following a public hearing, that requirement may no longer be there, okay? Perhaps you've heard of the statute that I can't recite the statute number, but I believe there is a process whereby you don't have to apply the 20% assessed requirement. If you hold a hearing, review your 5-year capital improvement plan, and adopt it as a city council.
Is that subject to, if I can, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Is that subject to reverse referendum? I think that's what,
Quite possible. it
yeah, I
could
think
be,
that's what
yes.
Brainerd tried with their
That's what I thought
buildings.
I thought that's what he meant when he said, subject to the voters. I mean, that's what you're referring
Okay.
to. So, yeah, I haven't researched it within the last few years even, but yes, but I think there's a vote required for that.
Yep.
Doesn't mean you can't present it for a vote, but it gets more cumbersome and timely, and it's harder to do. People in general don't like voting for
But you still,
things
I
that
mean,
cost money.
you're still coming up with the money, so, I mean, you can get away from the assessment process, but if you're bonding for it, I mean, you still got to pretty substantially, it seems to me, I don't know what the numbers are depending upon the size of the bond issue, but you still have to raise your levy in order to cover the bonds. Now, some of this, we think, can do that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's important. I asked Mike personally to give us a workup on what bonds would cost us over time as we started to bond for, on an annual basis, we started to bond for $1 million or $500,000 or whatever it is, and we do that, and they overlay each other for a period of 4 to 5 years. In the third year or fourth year, there's a substantial debt service. And we wouldn't be able to pay that unless we increased our budget. And, you know, it's difficult, but I don't know what the answer is.
I just, you know, and I'm not, all I'm just saying is I think it was very good that we went through the 5-year plan last year. And watching the council meetings last fall, everybody realized that there's going to have to be some work spent on this. And all I'm saying is we got to pick this up and we got to, you know, I'm sure Ted and Chip and all those guys, you know, they're getting their oar in the water, but it's going to get right down to the point where you got to take your oar out of the water and you get to put yours in the water because we only have so many bucks to go around. And so the plan needs to be more accurate than it is what I'm seeing. And I think Mike's done a good job of trying to find some cheap money. And, you know, one of the things that was confusing to me is that last fall, the fire truck was not in the budget for $450,000. And we had $535,000 of capital things still in there without the fire truck. And now he's talking about getting it, and I don't have any issues with a new truck. But now we're up to, you know, $950,000, and on his first sentence, he says we've got $338,000 in the capital budget. So if we have money elsewhere that I don't understand, that'll help us. But I think you meant we only have $338,000 for this year.
No, the 338,000 is in addition to, maybe you can put that last sheet, I think, you've got it in front of you, last sheet of your capital budget. It probably gives a little closer to, here, take that one. I think it's it'll give the council members and the public a little better idea of where we're at. Because the 338 is over and above making a lot of purchases with the, out of the capital budget, so.
The 338 is out of taxes paid in 2015. I think that's important. Some of these other things are paid out of other reserves, which we haven't really highlighted. Excuse me, Mike.
Let's just, I mean, what you have in front of you is the summary page for the capital budget. And what it includes is the 5-year plan. And remember back when we started the budget process back in August of last year, we had some pretty significant requests for capital. And just as a refresher, for the last 2 or 3 years, we've run road projects to the level of about right around that $300,000 range. And in last year, we did get a fire truck too, which was on, part of Chip's plan. And so what I did is I said, I've got $1,531,922 of requests.
And the roads.
And that included the roads. And I said, well, to kind of keep our capital items consistent with prior years, I don't have $1,531,922 available with the current level of funding to pay for those things. So I looked for the 2 largest items in there, and of course, we all know what those are. One was the fire truck, and the other one was the roads. So I took those 2 items out, and I said, okay, we're going to take those items out, and we're going to see how the numbers come out for the budget. And the $338,000 that's being tossed around was the amount of money that wasn't identified to a project or a department or a piece of equipment or a road in the 2015 budget. It was what was left over after all of the normal items were accounted for, whether it be a police car, miscellaneous fire equipment, a truck for public works or repairs to the sewer, whatever it was. And so what we tried to do was come up with a plan to say, we know we have these needs, but now how do we pay for them? What do we have available left to do that? And so that's where the $338,000 identified in these memos is coming from. We have requests for $997, but we have $338,000 available to put towards those requests. So what we did, again, and you've seen this, we met with staff, And we said, how can we start to fund some of these things? And this was the plan we came up with. Tonight, we've talked a lot about, we put some equipment out for bids, what could we sell, how could we finance it, how much money would we need to at least get the equipment requests, whether it's replacement or new equipment or getting rid of equipment we no longer use. And so what I did Friday afternoon is I said, here's what one of those examples might look like. And Dan has seen this, the rest of you haven't. And what I tried to do was I said, okay, we've got the fire apparatus, which is the fire truck. We've got the skid steer with attachments. We have a front-end loader. And then we had mentioned the John Deere tractor. Now, these are the items that are outside the normal things we would buy, whether it's a police car or the things I mentioned earlier. We've got some estimated cost on here. We've got the sale or trade-in value that we talked about. That was either we sell it outright, we trade it in, we get a bid for it. We have the sale of the other equipment, which was the motor grader and the snow blower. And then I said, you know what? We said, let's just pick a number. How much do we need? We need $500,000. Well, we come a little bit short. We also talked about, in the memo I had up earlier, what would it look like if we had if our payment was about at that $150,000 level? And if we did that, at the interest rates we're looking at, we need $561,000 in this example. Now that's going to change depending on the decision that comes out of the front end loader we decided to rebid. But here's an example of what that would look like at 1.5%, four annual payments for $561,000 of equipment. So you're about in that $150,000 payment range, okay? That's part of answers part of the question. It doesn't answer the question, what do you want to do with roads?
Well, comment?
Sure.
This is 1 year's worth of capital expenditure financing.
That's correct.
What happens if we do the same thing next year? I mean, we just add up those payments.
Correct.
Next year, we would have, what do we want to say, almost 300,000, 280,000. And the following year, we'd add another 145. And it's important, we mentioned the number earlier today, that every 25,000 is a 1% of our budget increase at the current level.
At the current level.
And this is my argument for reserving some, and we've got some reserves in here, and I appreciate that. And we can't pay cash for all the big items, and I appreciate that as well. But we've got to be responsible so that we can pay the nominal stuff. Is that okay? Police cars and brooms and maybe pickup trucks. Once we get behind the eight ball, we're not going to catch up. When I got involved with the city council, we were so far behind we couldn't control what we were taxing our people at. We had to have a given amount. And then we funded, and I think this is an important issue, we funded increasing administrative costs with debt retirement. In other words, we got out of one debt service and we took that money, $100 and some thousand, and applied it to our administrative costs. And so it appeared that we were doing okay as we retired the debt, but we weren't keeping up with issues either.
Well, we applied it to, when you say administrative costs, I think you're referring to the cost for all departments, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
So if I could interrupt. So at any rate, what we tried to do was, we get that we don't have enough money to fund all this stuff with the budget that we have. The needs didn't go away. So we tried to come up with some middle ground to at least address some of it. And so that's what we're doing with this plan. If you still go ahead and decide to sell the equipment that you took bids for, you're in fact saying, I want to do this too, because you have to replace the items you're proposing to get rid of. So they're all related. But again, it still doesn't address the, how do we pay for the roads? We've heard some ideas tonight about that, but that's where it's at.
I have a comment, is the newbie sitting up here and trying to catch up with, what happened 2 years ago and what happened 8 years ago and et cetera. We'll start with that pickup truck. I mean, a well-maintained pickup truck does not get replaced at 100,000 miles. I don't care how much you plow it, how much you tow with it, if you're maintaining it, why are we replacing a 100,000-mile pickup truck? They run well beyond that. So now just using that as an example, I mean, you guys had already had this conversation well before me, so I'm just going to sit here and say that's what somebody else had indicated was a good idea, or maybe that was your policy. I don't know when you replace police cars, but I do know that there's no reason that I even think about replacing a truck with merely 100,000 miles on it. So I don't know where fire trucks fall into this mix and any of these other things. If you absolutely need it, fine. And when it comes to the road thing, I mean, I need a lot more information here. I mean, if you don't have money in the outlay for the roads, then why can you even think to consider adding a trail to Anchor Point Road? I mean, that's got to add a bunch of dough. I mean, it does. Now, if you had the money sitting around, you got a bunch of extra money and you want to add, I'm not against the trail, but you don't even have money for the road. You better worry about the road first. The trail is completely a luxury. So you got to, I'd need a lot more information here on, if you're going to assess, if you can assess, if you can't assess. I happen to know Anchor Point Road a little bit myself. So, that's the thing, is this is a whole, whole vast subject you've got right here that I would need a lot more information on, but, I'm a little surprised by just a couple of things coming in here out of the blue tonight, that, you're throwing away 100,000 mile pickup trucks, which is, that's only half of its life. It's still got 50% left if it's been maintained. Now, if something happened to it, and it's a piece of junk, I mean, I don't know that, but I do know that well-maintained modern-day equipment, lasts far longer than that, and then you get into the road issue here. You don't have money to resurface a road, and somebody's talking about adding trails. Well, I bet you adding that darn trail is going to be as much as probably resurfacing the road by the time you start taking property and clearing the sides, and I'm just quite surprised. I'd need a lot more information. That's my comment.
Thank you, Brad.
I can address the
If I can, just to clarify once again, we're not getting rid of that truck. I mean, it's going to the park department, so we're not trading it in, we're not trading it out.
I understand. I mean, I've
It's
seen
gonna
where
be
the old
part of
squad
the
cars
city's
end up and
operation.
stuff too, but do they need it over there? I mean, is that or is that just where it goes when it gets, like some of our ex-squad cars, they get
yeah.
discarded and they end up,
Yep.
at City Hall for other uses? I appreciate that. Sometimes we need them and sometimes maybe we don't.
It'll serve a good purpose at the Parks Department, and it eliminates the need for them, I mean, what they have now, I
Right,
believe.
right.
is
I'm
in
just
statute.
making
They
a
won't
comment
have to
that
buy something down the road.
If you were going to buy one over there anyway, if they needed a vehicle over there anyway, I mean, that's a whole nother subject that I'm not privy to. I'm just making that comment that, I hope we don't make a policy of retiring vehicles with merely 100,000 miles on them, because well-maintained, I don't care how you use them, how you plow with them, or tow with them, or what you do, a truck is not burned out at 100,000 miles. So.
The park department's pickup is pretty well shot.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
I
it is
just-
going to replace it.
That's what I just, that's the kind of info I need, is once again, as the newbie here. So,
Okay, appreciate your comments, Brad. They're well taken. Where are we?
Well,
We're on number
again,
5 or 6. 4 or 6, I guess.
You just, the council needs to give us some direction. This is our recommendation. I realize this is the first meeting of the year, first meeting for of you, at least a couple of you. So, we're going to meet again in a couple of weeks. Maybe we want to have some additional discussion on it. I know our department heads all want to, get their orders in, but, you need to make the decision, and you have to be comfortable with the decision you're going to make. And if it means we're going to have to wait a couple weeks or whatever amount of time to make you a little more comfortable, that's what we're going to have to do.
Mr. Mayor, can I talk a little?
Go ahead, Dave.
Is it possible that Mike could take the plan and lay in the how we're going to pay for it?
I would really appreciate
You
that
know,
also.
and thanks for the summary. I think this year, I understand, is we could cover, but then what you're saying is, then what do we do next year and the year? And that's the part that I think everybody here needs to understand, because those numbers just climb. When we get into 2017, it's twice what it was in 16, unless somebody makes some changes to this. And,
Yeah,
and
I'm with Dave in the fact that what I would need to understand here is what, you know, let's take a look at the whole city. How many roads do we have? What is the agenda or the immediate need in kind of somewhat of an order? And are we talking in over the course of the next, you know, so many years, what, you know, what's the total? And then sit down and get a 5-year and even maybe longer plan on, because you know other roads that maybe don't need it today are going to need it, you know, 5 years from now. I mean, this, you know, where, as the mayor pointed out, I mean, you just can't look at what are we going to do to fund this year, so we have the same conversation and need another extra $500,000 next year that we don't know where it's coming from. I just need to get brought up to speed a little bit on this.
Ted?
I just want to make the comment, we have a 5-year capital improvement plan on the roads, equipment, and buildings and grounds. The 5-year plan that's you're shown in that budget is this year we need X. If you're going to kick the can down the road, it just compounds it that much more, and compounds it that much more. Things are going to start needing or falling apart. We are doing the routine maintenance and the crack sealing every year that's allowed in the budget. It's about $25,000 a year. So we are doing the preventative stuff, filling potholes, keeping up on that. But you get out that 20, 25 years on some of these roads, and they're starting to show their wear and tear. So at some time, you're gonna have to do something.
Ted, I
Now,
would,
the trails that they're talked about in that they were just talked about as if the money was available to be done. When they
Okay.
were doing the design, they wanted have the foresight to, okay, if we do the road, and if there was money available, we put the trail alongside and build it for that way. The trail may not be built at that time. It may be something in the future. That was the number one thing out of the, that master plan that was done to the city was roads and trails. As far as the city, that was one of the biggest things that people wanted to see. But there is a 5-year capital plan. There is a plan as far as the equipment and all that. It's already, a lot of that you've got in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Ted.
So we have two,
What do you want to do with this?
the
Mr.
first
Volk?
item, and we talked about the Sierra, the GMC, that was an earlier item on this discussion that's in the budget. I mean, it wasn't part of the excess, the extra money, and that's including the truck that was going to get transferred to Park and Rec. So there was that issue, and then how you want to handle the memo that I wrote, and how we want to handle the equipment and roads, and certainly, like I said, you can hold that off. It's, we're not trying to push it on you, because we realize you just started out too tonight.
You know, I don't see any relief going forward. I see us doing this year in, year out. And we've got such pieces in our capital outlay budget that really should have been budgeted as maintenance, you know, and I shouldn't say this, but I will. I look at the 35W bridge in the Twin Cities, and that failed for lack of maintenance. It was marginal design, but failed for lack of maintenance. I would hate to see us trading off equipment. I'll camp on Brad Nelson. Trading off equipment that we probably haven't maintained. And I said it earlier in the meeting, I've got vehicles in my household now that are 150 and 240,000 miles. Yeah, they cost a little money to maintain, but nothing close to the double today what it would cost to replace the vehicle that I have. So I think we've got to look at that, and I would certainly encourage Mike to give us a look-see at what happens when we finance next year's budget and the year after. I have come to realize that we cannot encumber future councils to the plans that we might lay for this stuff, and that's where the reserve argument tends to have problems. But we need to know what the big items and the stuff is going to cost us. And I really encourage us to recognize what is really normal maintenance and not be capitalizing that, but budgeting for it in our normal budget process. Like replacing the roof on the community center.
Sure, sure.
Mike, is it possible that you could level out, I think you talked about that earlier, that, is it possible you could work the 5-year plan over so you could get something that's more similar from year to year and not so dissimilar?
Yeah, I think,
Something that we could understand?
I'm sorry, we were using, I think in the road plan, I mean, that's your biggest expenditure. We were just using what had been done previously, I believe. I mean, we were just using the plan that they came up with.
Right, we
I mean,
used
there's some
the-
huge expenses there.
I mean, where you're seeing the variability is in the road plan. And that's laid out there. I mean, just your road and trails, 2015, the initial request was 547. It drops down to 381 in 2016, and it goes up to $1.3 million in 2017. And then we know roads are, not every road is the same. They're all just a little bit different, and you're not going to do, just part of one road and then do the part of it. I mean, it's more efficient to do it all at once. So, I mean, where you're seeing the variability is in the roads. We did do the smoothing that we could do where it made sense. One of the examples I can pick on is in parks. We moved a couple things up. One of those was replacing the tractor, to try to keep the expenditure side of it level. So, and this will change next year too.
Can you forward everyone? 5-year road plan that WSN.
Yep.
Well, we need one of those for equipment and maintenance as well. And they
I mean, we
don't
tried-
necessarily want to be combined, because the maintenance really should be budgeted for annually.
Road maintenance.
Roof maintenance,
Roof
building
maintenance, oh,
maintenance, vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, we try to do that
equipment maintenance, huh?
until we get to the big ticket, the capital
Well,
items. It's the re-roofing, that's, I
Well-
think we're trying to build a fund for that with the Parks Department, but.
We came out with new 5-year plans this summer on all these items when we first got shell-shocked with that $1.5 million capital. And so we
Yeah.
had them all, put them together for us, and every department did. And they came back to us, and that's what we're trying to work with, is the one that they have now, is those, and every department has that 5-year plan. The road, Ted's the road plan, that's been there for a while. I mean, that wasn't brand new. He's had that for a while.
In fact, it's been pushed.
Yeah. And so the challenge, of course, is, again, how do you pay for them? I understand. I think they put together a pretty good plan for getting us through this year with the equipment that we need.
Yep.
If, for the benefit of the new guys here, we have another council meeting in 2 weeks. If I might suggest, I'll make the motion, if nobody seconds, I guess I'll know what you think about it, but I'll make the motion that we table item 4 and 6, G, 4 and 6, until the next meeting, and give the chance, these guys a chance to come in and sit down with Dan or Mike and see if they can get comfortable with what we're doing or come up with a better plan.
Well, I think, I agree with you, except that item 6 includes A, B, and C, which we haven't even touched on, which also have differing pieces of urgency in them. We're talking about equipment surplus already. 'cause
They relate.
Are you
They
okay
all-
with that?
Yeah, I am.
All
They
right.
all relate to each other.
And
The surplus equipment was dependent on the purchase of the fire truck. And if you're not going to issue certificates and purchase the fire truck, you don't want to get rid of what's there, so.
And we've got
I mean,
the
They were
Dream-
all interdependent on, A, B, and C were. The Dream Island Bridge
Dream Island
thing was,
Bridge?
yep, that was dependent on how you're going to handle that.
All right. So you all-
338.
are we okay deferring that for 2 weeks?
I think we are. They may not be, but I think we are.
Well, here's the thing, is the council, the three of us have had discussions on this, but the two new guys have not been privy, well, have not been able to
all right.
be involved with all this. It just give them a chance to get a little more caught up with us. This
catching-
plan that's here in front of us, laid out by Mike and Dan and the department heads, I think is a good plan, and I would vote for it. But if there's some reservations on it, well, and so far nobody's seconded my motion to table it, so maybe we want to move ahead and go ahead and approve these.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that. We'll table it for 2 weeks.
Motion Wessels, second Hecox.
Discuss a little, when is discussion
Go
now?
ahead, Dave, you have discussion?
Can we include that we're going to get, I understand the expense side of what we're going to shell out. I'd like to see something on here that outlines how we're going to, where we're going to get the money from. And I think you've done that in 15. And again, this is, you said you have, you had some of this covered already, 535,000, and then we borrow another 600,000.
That's this year.
That's this year. So then next year, you're going to do the same thing, but then you're going to, at some point, you're going to say, I am going to have to borrow another 500,000. And you mentioned that earlier, Mr. Mayor, where you're going to lay one on top of the other to see what, eventually we aren't going to have any money left, maybe not, but.
That's the point I'm really confused on, is just saying, okay, if you know that this is your plan and you're going to need this in the next 3 to 5 years, then you need to look at the financing out further than just sitting here taking care of an extra $500,000 tonight. What about next year? That's where I just,
I'm afraid our new
you
guys
know
are
you got all
probably
these
gonna hurt.
roads and you know you got all these projects, so why aren't we trying to have a conversation about, whether it's bonding or assessing or whatever, looking out and how do we take care of this 5-year nut?
Thank you, Brad.
And discuss that a little bit now, instead of just jumping to the table and saying, well, let's go borrow for today, and then we'll talk about this again sometime later. There's some big financial issues here.
Wimpy.
Good point.
In the process of tabling it, I'm going to lean on you, Brad, and you, Dave, to come in and talk with Mike and Dan and get up to speed so that we can move on this in 2 weeks.
And ask Mike to present that overlaid debt service that we're looking out in front.
Yeah, we can, if I can, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, we can come up with, if you issue $2 million worth of bonds and you do it over 10 years, we can tell you what the payments are going to be. And as far as how to pay for it, that's your decision. We can come up with alternatives, and we can say you've got to raise taxes by this much, or you got to have an assessment policy that will allow it, or the other thing that Dave was talking about, subject to a reverse
I
referendum.
just want to see what we
Yep.
can afford and where we
Sure.
come short, and that I don't know.
Yep, okay.
So,
Excuse me, but I think it's also important to know that some of this stuff may be eligible for grants. And so we need to
Into it.
somewhere fit that into this equation as well. Anyway, there's a motion and I believe a second on the table.
Yes.
Gary?
We've had the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that we'll delay this for 2 weeks, until the next council meeting, which will be held the last week in January.
Item 7,
Item
you've
7
already.
we covered.
Item 7, I believe you've already handled, you've set the meeting.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to make a note that performance evaluations of the city employees are done in February. So we'll get those going next month.
Well, yeah,
March, we'll get results of those.
well, they should be done, they're due in March, so we really should get on the plan
February,
to
March.
make sure we're doing that.
Yep, I know they were done, I think, in February last year, and I know the department heads were done beginning of March. So,
Okay.
Yep. That's
Planning
it.
and zoning, commission reports.
Good evening.
Morning. Good
I
morning.
don't
Good
come
evening,
asking
Chris.
for much money, so I think we'll we'll give it a shot. But what I have before you tonight, the first item I have is to go over the summary of the 2014 permit numbers. There was one in your packet that you've got, but I just, we did a little bit of an update this week. And so I wanted to give you just kind of a refresher on that, and just go over those numbers real quick. I like to go up at the very top under where it says our customer service inquiry.
Real easy to read.
I'll hit the high spots. For the year, if you take account of the counter, phone, email, site visits, interactions we have with the public, we had over 4,000 total visits. Did you not get enough, or are we missing any? There was, but the version I just sent around was an updated
This is the
one.
same as the one that was in the packet?
No, it's just got some updated numbers on it.
Okay, good.
I'll go over those quick.
All right.
So we had 4,092 customer inquiries this year, which is it's a lot for our city. I think that's impressive. I think it's a number that we should be proud of, that we're reaching out and interacting with those folks. When you look at enforcement, we had a total number of 14 cases were turned in and validated as being actual complaints, and we were able to resolve all 14 of those and get those taken care of. I think it's important to point out, when you look under permits, under new construction, we had 36 new dwellings this year. That's a good number for us. 27 new septics, 24 upgrades. We also had 47 permits for shoreline or land alteration permits. The part that got added is the part right there where it talks about the development review team meetings. We started doing those back in April. And what those are is a pre-application meeting with staff and the applicant to just go over the application as they're wanting to submit before they make the application, so they understand what the requirements are, permit application, what does it mean to go before the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, and all the processes and fees. And since we started that back in April, we had 29 DRT applications. We do those once a month. And what happened was, I think it's important to point out, during that time, we had 29 applications, and as so far, only 23 applied. And that's a pretty consistent number we see at the county. We do this too. A lot of times when people come through the process, we either are able to figure out another solution to what they're hoping to accomplish, or sometimes the application may not make complete sense and they might choose not to apply, or they could still apply down the road. But we do see a number about this where we don't see all folks that go through the DRT process actually come forward and make an application to the city for either a variance or a conditional use permit or some type of application of that nature. We did have a total of 23 variances applied for this year. 21 of the 23 were approved. We had 3 conditional use permits. All 3 of those were approved. We had 3 subdivisions, meets and bounds, plats, and we were 3 for 3 on those. We had 1 land use map request that was denied by council to amend the zoning map. I think what I'd like to point out, though, are because of the changes in the ordinance and looking at stormwater and impervious coverage and those sorts of performance standards, as part of permits this year, of the permits that were approved, 16 of them would require a shoreline buffer, which would be to leave a part of their shoreline into a native state where they wouldn't mow it and they would leave it unmaintained. And also a total of 52 stormwater plans were required as part of permits. And why that 52 number really stands out is because if you look at a stormwater plan, that typically reduces, according to the state stormwater manual, about a 1/4 pound of phosphorus per year. And 1 pound of phosphorus is about equal to 300 to 500 pounds of algae. So if you take 52 and put into stormwater plans and look at that, that's a substantial number of algae being reduced in our lakes, and that's the key contributor to water quality. So I think that's a real key number as far as that. And then the final number I wanted to point out quick, and this hasn't changed since last month, but we had 162 inspections, 165 inspections for septic systems for permits and the like, and 162 of those passed and 3 of those failed. And we're in the process. 1 has already got their system resolved and a new system in, and we're working with the other 2. They've got, basically from the notice of noncompliance, they've got 10 months to get that system upgraded. And so we're tracking those and working with them to get those systems upgraded. So are there any questions about that report?
The only thing I would point out, so it's clear for people that don't do, is 29 people came to Chris and his crew wanting to do something. Roughly a third of them were told they're not going to get it done. When you look at 20, roughly, not quite, 21 people got approved for the variance. And so when it shows only 2 variance applications were denied, there were actually 6 other people that were told, don't even try. You're not going to get it anyway. But I'm saying it a little more crudely than they would, but basically saying what your plan isn't going to work. Am I saying that right? I wanted to, because the county had numbers similar to that a few years ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we're telling folks no, because that's something that staff would never tell somebody.
Right.
We would never tell somebody outright, your application has no chance, because we don't have a role in making that decision. What we would say is, our experience with similar applications in the past has met with this type of a reaction from the commission or from the council. And so to give them some feedback on that, if it's something that we think may not receive a favorable approval, we'll work with them to come up with a different plan, something that might meet the approval, and looking, instead of building closer to the lake, can they build on the side or to the back, say for a variance, or coming forward with proposed stormwater plans or proposed shoreline buffers, those sorts of things, to give them some insight into what are some things that they could do to maybe increase the likelihood of getting the approval. Because if they go through the process of spending $500 for a permit and $3,000 or more for a survey, they should at least go into it with eyes wide open, knowing what to expect from that process and not to be surprised. There's nothing worse, I think, than coming to a meeting and have gone through the process and then have staff sit across the table and say, I don't think we should approve this. And the applicant says, I kind of wish I'd have known that. A couple months ago, I might have revised my plan based on some of that advice. So that's what the development review team does, is just provide some of that insight. Sometimes folks decide they don't want to apply because of the cost. Sometimes they don't want to apply because they're maybe not ready at this time. They need to get some more work done to get ready for it. And some, just aren't comfortable that they get approved and they choose to not apply.
That's a major change here, and it eliminates the guessing game on the part of the applicant as to what the rules mean.
Correct.
You sit down and apply the guidelines to their application, their situation. It's a great process. I've attended several, and it works well. Thank you, Chris.
Well, and just to point out, too, that I know we talked about this at the beginning of when the county started working for Cross Lake, about customer service and does that matter? And we do have a customer service survey that we provide to folks who we interact with, and this year we had 50 people submit a survey and let us know some of their feedback, and it was 50 out of 50, 100% were positive that they got the level of service that they needed from staff at the city. And I think that's a really that's a good number. I wish we had more surveys, to be honest. 50, I wish we had more, but you can't force somebody to take a survey. But it's just good feedback to know that we're getting that feedback, that we are providing that service that people need and expect from the city. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, it's also shortened the meetings down to 2 hours or less for the commission members that used to run all day.
That's a land speed record, isn't it? Yes, it's super. Works well.
The next item I have is just to give you a quick update, if that's okay, on the commercial ordinance. We have set up 2 open houses for folks if they want to come in and sit with staff and talk. It's going to be on January 23rd. There'll be 2 of them, one at 10 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. We have sent a notice over to the Northland Press to get that published, and the plan is for each session to be about an hour apiece. And it's really we're not expecting to really have a sit down and really give a presentation. It's going to be set up more in an informal conversation, and we're going to invite planning commission members. Some of the planning commission members have agreed to come. It'd be great if any of the council wants to come. It's been published so that there can be a quorum for both. So we have that issue of a quorum covered. And so we just really want to have an opportunity if somebody wants to come in and just talk about it, because sometimes you might read something and you might not quite grasp what it's trying to communicate. We just want to have the opportunity for some folks to come in, and John will be here, I'll be here, the members of the planning commission. We've tried to make sure that somebody from the planning commission is available at both meetings to have the conversation with them too. And so I just want to invite the public to attend that meeting on the 23rd if they have the opportunity. It'll be right here in city council chambers.
What time on that day, on the 23rd?
One will be at 10 a.m. and one will be at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Chris.
And just the final comment is we have received 1 written comment so far on the commercial ordinance, and that was submitted back on December 15th. So I would encourage folks to get us some comments. The time is coming close at the end of the month to get your written comments into us. Doesn't mean December 31st or January 31st is not you can still submit comments, but that'll be the formal comment period we'll use to make any revisions to the ordinance before we take it to the planning commission in March.
I have one comment. You use press releases to make these announcements. Is that not correct?
I have in the past, and I've been we've been doing publishing in the paper now at the request of the council.
Is there any reason we shouldn't be using the legal format, the legal notice format, especially for this? I'm not sure that our community is geared for reading the newspaper thoroughly enough to pick up articles, because that's what a press release results in. They're probably looking for legal notices. Just a question I'm asking.
And that's what this is, and that's what we've done. It's all been through legal notice.
Okay,
It has been no press releases, all through legal
very
notice.
good. Thank you, Chris.
Yep. Any other questions on that? Next up on the agenda, I believe I don't have it with me, but I think the agenda is the training piece. I'm coming forward tonight to see if the council is interested in partnering with the county on providing a training for both of the Planning Commission, Board of Adjustments, and the elected folks from Cross Lake and Crow Wing County. I've worked with a land use attorney down in the Twin Cities named Jay Squires. He's with the law firm of Rupp Anderson Squires down in Minneapolis. I've talked to Brad about this, so he is aware that I'm coming forth with this request tonight. But I've talked to him in the past, and he was more than willing to come up. He is actually a resident of Cross Lake, he has a cabin up here, and he would be more than interested in coming up and providing that training to us. The cost for the training is $1,000, plus his travel costs to come up, just the mileage. And what I would like to do is split the cost of that with the city, and so the county is able to put forth $500 towards that, if the city is willing to put forth $500 towards that. We're looking at having the training potentially on February 27th in the afternoon. It would be the afternoon of the typical Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We'd have the commission meeting in the morning, and then we would have the training going on in the afternoon. And we would have the training would be up here in Cross Lake, and then we would bring up the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment folks from Brainerd up here.
Who is encouraged to attend?
It would be encouraged, I'd like to see the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment for both the city and the county, and both elected officials to attend both. I'd like to have both come. So this training, it's legal training. It's going to start with enabling statutes at 462 and 394, and work the process of how does zoning come into place, and how do you do findings of fact, how do you run meetings, the start to finish. And he's done this many times. I've attended many of the training sessions. It's a very good training, and I believe it's well worth the investment. We do have, especially on the Cross Lake side, we have some folks who are newer to being on the Planning Commission, some folks down on the Crow Wing side, but I think the training is worth it, and I would recommend, that the city participate in that with the county.
I think it's very worthwhile for the Planning Commission members and for everybody to understand the legal aspects of what they might say when they're sitting up here to somebody to keep us out of a lawsuit at some point in time. So I think it's money well spent.
One point I'd like to make too, if I could, is that Jay is on retainer with the League of Minnesota Cities. So if something were to happen where the city were to have a decision appealed, there's a pool of attorneys, and Jay is one of those attorneys that could possibly be selected to represent the city if somebody were to appeal a decision. And so that's why I think it's nice to have that attorney do the training, because if they're going to be representing us, we should know how they would like us to handle our business, so that when the time comes to represent us, that we've done all the proper steps according to the legal recommendations of the attorney.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Now, we're voting on you to put this together.
I'll take care of all the details.
Where will it be held?
Right here at City Hall.
Right here in
Right
Cross
here.
Lake?
Yep, we're going to bring everybody up here, so, yep.
Wow. And we're paying half of it.
Paying half of it, correct. And I will publish it so that that will allow for a quorum of the council and the county
Great.
board and the commission members to be here. So it'll be right here in this room.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. So the next item we got on the agenda is just the dates for the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment for 2015. There's no changes here. Still the fourth Friday. I did highlight the meetings in November and December. We did move those back to the Wednesday prior to that because of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Okay.
And so what you're looking at is the third column. It's that column right there. These other dates include DRT meeting deadlines, submission deadline, and those sorts of things. So that's what the column that we're worried about right now is the second to the last column, the fifth column.
Okay.
Is this published on our website someplace?
Oh, yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
point.
it is. No, it's part of, we have a section on the website that's got application information that's out there, so.
Good.
The last item I have is just to give a quick update to the council on the county aquatic invasive species program as we go forth for 2015. For those who may not be aware, the state legislature in 2014 allocated $10 million per year to Minnesota counties to aid in the prevention of aquatic invasive species at public landings, at boat landings, both public and private. And so part of the requirements of that is that the county has to put forth a plan as to how they're going to allocate and spend those services. And so what I want to do tonight was just give you a quick update on that and to let you know what that is and see if there's any comments or questions you might have about it. And because it's going through the process right now, it's in the process of having the comment period. It's been put out for comment back on December 23rd, and comments will be accepted until January 23rd, and it's going to be heard, it'll be considered and reviewed at the county board meeting, at their regular meeting in February, on February 10th. So this doesn't require a public hearing, anything along those lines, so there's no public hearing for this request. But if you look in your packets, you got a little map that looks like this. This outlines all the landings that will be located within the city. And so what you see are little dots on the map, and the dots that are areas in red are so what the county has done is it basically made a map of all the landings that we know of in the county that are public and private, and then basically have a plan to assess each one of those landings as far as their high probability of potentially having an AIS contamination. And so obviously lakes that have AIS in them, like zebra mussels or milfoil, those sorts of things, will have a higher level of status than lakes that don't. And what you'll see here, if you look at some of the lakes that we've got, I'm going to find my list here quick. This is another thing that you've got in your packet too here, this map, and it really summarizes with the accesses that are in Cross Lake, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the two very high and the ones that are the highest risk are located at the Cross Lake of the DNR Division of Parks and Trails and the Corps of Engineers. And so the very higher risk are getting allocated 400 hours per landing for inspection. If you're at a high, you're going to be allocated a couple hundred hours, and then once you get into the moderate and low, those landings will be handled through an education program, signage, and that sort of information. So, and what I'll do is I'll go through real quick just how the county is allocating those dollars and what the plan involves. And so the core of the plan is boat landing inspections, and that is in addition to what the DNR is already doing. So the DNR already has a boat landing inspection program. And these hours that we propose in the plan supplement that. They're in addition to what the DNR does. And the big question always comes is, are you working with the DNR to make sure that you're not overlapping and having two inspectors at one landing? And the answer is yes. We actually hire summer coordinators to work with the DNR and the Employment Resource Center. They're the group that we've contracted with to hire the inspectors that go do the actual boat inspections. And so the plan is to work very closely with the DNR to help supplement those areas, but not be at landing when the DNR is already there. Another one is decontamination units. And you'll see on the map, right where my finger is, you'll see there's a proposed location of a decontamination unit in Cross Lake. We've been talking to Ted a little bit, and these are areas that have not been approved or anything yet. We're just trying to find some areas in the county where we think decontamination units will be useful. This location is over at the Public Works Building that's shared by the city and the county. Decontamination units are high pressure, high temperature pressure washers that folks will be able to bring their equipment to and have a level 2 inspector apply and use the sprayer to decontaminate that boat. And so if somebody has been into a lake that's infested, for them to go into another lake, there's a wait time that they either have to wait, I believe it's 14 days to go into another lake or be decontaminated by one of these sprayers, and to get and to basically you need to, they give you a little slip of paper that you've been decontaminated, and you can go into a lake after that.
Is that sticker application available on the web yet? I saw when it was announced, but there was nothing there yet with the DNR.
Right, so what you're referring to is that the Minnesota legislature in 2000, I believe it was in 2012, passed a law that said in 2015, if you want to have a trailer that's going to have equipment on it that's going to be put into a lake, be it a dock, be it a boat, be it a lift, those sorts of items, you have to go through an online training with the DNR. And my understanding is that they're going to have this training effective, up and running by the end of this month.
By
And
when?
by January 31st is when the training will be available online. And then there'll be a fee associated with it, and you have to have that training done with a sticker on your boat by July 1st to be able to put your boat into a public water in Minnesota. I think the rub comes a little bit on, we have folks from out of state that come through Minnesota to get to Canada, or come through Minnesota to get to Dakota to do some fishing. And if you're even just coming through the state and you don't have any plans on stopping, you still have to have that training. You still have to have that, have taken the test and passed the test and got the sticker for your boat. So I would encourage folks who are boaters and going to be putting, lifts and that sort of thing in the lake to get on that sooner than later, because I don't know the time frame of how long it could take possibly to take your test and then have the sticker mailed to get that picked up. So that's something that the DNR is coordinating that is separate from this. The last.
So that's
I'm sorry.
available on the computer?
It will be. Yeah, there also, I believe, my understanding is that there also will be packets you can pick up that you can take the training and fill it out and mail it in, and then have stuff if you're not access to a computer or not. Some people aren't real, my dad would not be able to take that test. I'll have to help him with the paper written version, so he's not sure how to turn on the computer. So they do have that available in a written format so that folks can fill that out and still get their pass that test.
Good.
The last couple things, just something to hit on real quick, is just treatment of Eurasian water milfoil. We have some lakes in the county that have it, and we think that if we can help treat those lakes and minimize the size of the acreage of that, it'll lessen the likely of that being transmitted and transferred to other lakes. Education and awareness is a huge piece of the puzzle. And so we're working with an organization in Brainerd called Red House Media to design some educational materials and some handouts, some signage, because we need to put signs up. We're going to work with our private folks to put signs up at the accesses for them that will help people know when they're coming in, like say at a resort, to come in to make sure that they have their, know what all the requirements are, and that they've, to make them aware of the aquatic invasive species laws. And we're also working with Fishing the Wild Side up in Walker. A bunch of area counties are getting together and putting together some infomercials that will be put into some of our distant friends who like to come up and visit in the Iowa area, Sioux Falls area, Fargo area. Some folks that are coming this way, we want to send some infomercials out that way to help give them some education, understanding about what the AIS requirements are up here in Minnesota.
I would suggest that you make some of this information available on our website, especially as it comes to aquatic invasive species training and/or licensing and/or.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Decontamination stations.
I can,
okay.
what I can do is once the plan is approved, the plan is available right now. All this information I've given to you is available at the county website, but I can also put it up on the city website and make it
Should be
available.
here.
Absolutely, we can do that, no problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Sounds like we're communicating next. Mr. Kevin Larson.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe and City Councilman, and I'd also like to welcome City Councilman Nelson and Schrupp there. Nice to see you this evening. We've got, hopefully I'll bring you back up into a little shorter meeting here. We didn't have a meeting last month, but that doesn't mean, or I should say the advisory board didn't have a meeting last month, but we've still been busy down at Cross Lake Communications. We're finished with Cross Lake, or excuse me, County State Aid Highway 3 project. And we had a lot of temporary equipment out there, and just this week, we are finishing up. We've got everybody converted there, and we do have 2 cable TV customers, but they're on vacation rate, and we'll finish that up next year, or excuse me, this spring. But all that temporary equipment is going to be used this winter to prepare for the construction on County Road 36. As you know, last fall, we were able to get our interduct in there, and we're pulling fiber in there for our temporary, well, that'll be permanent, but that'll start converting some of those people over, so when they start doing the road construction there, we'll be able to keep everybody in service throughout next summer during that construction. So we're well on our way on County Road 36 also. I'd like to report also that we were able to wrap up the project to Crow Wing Power's site up on Outpost on Highway 1, and we've got a contract with them signed in conjunction with CTC. So we're connecting both their home site there on 371 to their outpost up on Highway on Highway 1, which with a high-speed internet connection there, so they can be fully connected at all times. We've reached agreements on our TV contracts, Fox agreement, some retransmission agreements, and Discovery agreements. They're not easy, and I've reported to you before about these negotiations. It's more like they've got your arm twisted behind your back. But between WCCO, KSTP, KSTC, Channel 45, Fox, My29, KARE 11, and KMSP Fox 9. I'll give you an example. 2014 rate was, for those 6 channels, was $3.92 for everybody that watches that. And the new 2015 rate is $6.60. That's a 69% increase on those 6 channels. That's just the way this market is going. It's getting atrocious. And then we just finished up with Discovery channels. There's actually 11 channels there spread out through the whole lineup, and we had an 8% increase there. I was talking to Debbie this afternoon. I believe what I will be doing at the January Advisory Board meeting is will we be presenting a potential rate increase for this year. Normally it doesn't get put on till April, May, but with no meeting in February, we always have to get your approval of we have to have the advisory committee make a recommendation to the city council, and then you folks have to approve a rate increase, and then we have to give customers a 30-day notice, so it can get pushed out. So I think we're going to try to have a proposal done by the end of this month, at least a ballpark figure that the advisory committee can take a look at, and hopefully we can get some sort of a recommendation out of that.
Can you do that? We've got a meeting on the same day as your board meeting, your advisory board meeting.
Yeah, we're in the
tight for
morning
you.
and you're in the evening, so I'll see what we can do to get some sort of a recommendation at that point in time. So that's the good news on cable TV. Fun in the sun. Okay, I've mentioned earlier, and some of this is also for the new councilman, I'm planning on organizing a strategic planning meeting between the city council and the advisory board sometime in the second quarter, and we have not picked a date yet, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. So we'll be talking about a lot of things that need to be done. We've been meeting with the staff here, and we've been making some operational changes and working with a number of customers about their internet speeds and so forth. So we're continuing to make headway there. And I'd like to note that in the March council meeting, the local manager, Debbie Florshinger, will be making this report as I am at a national convention with the NTCA, so I won't be able to be here in the March meeting. And finally, I would like to comment that last week I was able to attend the Consumer Electronics Show. You've probably read about it or watched it on TV last week about the number of things that are happening they're calling it the Internet of Things. And there was 2.2 million square feet of showroom floor. There was 3,600 exhibitors from everything from health and fitness to internet-connected cars to interconnected refrigerators and washing machines and crock pots, and home automation and home monitoring. And I spent a day and a half there at that meeting and brought home a lot of ideas and a lot of knowledge about what's happening to our world. They, at the present time, there's about 1 billion pieces or electronics connected to the internet worldwide. By the end of this year, they're projecting it to be 2 billion. But by the year 2020, we'll have 50 billion, that's a B, devices connected to the internet. That's the projection. So if you can think it, it'll probably be connected to the internet. Therefore, as you've heard what I've said to many of you already, the goal for Cross Lake is we've got to continue to look at ways of increasing our speeds and our capacity in our networks in order to handle that, because things will be connected to the internet all the time. So that's all I have tonight, unless you have any questions for me.
Kevin, I have one. It is, I have discovered, and I would like to get the council to approve this, I have discovered that somewhere tangled in a handbook that is part of, I don't know whose domain, and part of our ordinance, we somewhere have tangled up since 2005 the chairmanship of the advisory commission for the communications company.
Yep.
I would like to have proposed that we do not mandate that a liaison chair that advisory board, and I would like to make modification to these related documents. I think it has a negative impact on our ability to attract volunteers. I think that it's an unfair advantage in some form. I think the liaison still will, represent the council, represent a position, work with you, but I just think that chairing the committee is a little over the top, and I would like to get some comments here from the council on modifying those rules and not mandating that they can't, but just not making it mandatory that they do chair.
Debbie brought that that policy book to me just last week,
Yep.
and we're starting to review it. And I think there's a number of things in there that I think we're going to have to come back to the advisory board and offer some recommendations, and then obviously you folks would have to approve that here. But I don't know, maybe Brad can help you, maybe you can make that determination today. You can overrule what's in that book, I believe, at any time. But history, when I was here, my previous stint, it was, the liaison was just a member, and there was always,
That's right.
they always elected their
This
own.
started in 2005.
Yeah, so,
And so, I don't know if we need a motion or can gain consensus from the council that we authorize those types of alterations by you and your advisory board. I would please hear some comments.
Mr. Rowe, if I could, this is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah.
And we have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yep.
I guess, before I vote on stuff, I like to be able to do a little bit of research. And so could we wait 2 weeks to do anything with that? And find out why that was done that way in 2005. I mean, I'd be interested to know why they did it.
Fine.
And then I maybe can talk with you and with Kevin too. And
Okay, I did some of that homework, and I just, it's a control issue. And I just think that, if we could authorize them to at least start reviewing it, we don't have to approve it.
yeah,
But maybe it's if you want to delay it 2 weeks, I see no problem in that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, you bet.
well, I'll try to bring some, I can't say for sure that we'd have our full recommendations through the whole document by 2 weeks from Tuesday.
I
But
appreciate that.
maybe we can come up with a short list, and Brad and I can bring back something that evening to the council meeting. If you want
That
to
would be
make some
great,
minor
Kevin.
changes to begin with, and we can continue to work on it. So
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to know, it's 21-7. Ohio State is leading at the halftime, so. That's the wrong way for me.
Park and Rec, Mr. John Henke.
Good evening.
Say, John.
I'll be brief. I'm disappointed. I taped the game tonight. I did not want any updates. Kevin, thanks, Kevin. I think he just made it up. So, I'll be brief here tonight. Just a few things to update. The library will be closed on Martin Luther King Day. We just got done with our last trail expansion, and I wanted to acknowledge a few folks on that tonight and put a few pictures up here. This first one is of our new walking bridge that we had some volunteers put together this summer. Joel Knippel, Dick Elmquist, Ted Pedersen, and the barrels that you see on there were donated by Brad and CNC Boatworks. So thank you, Brad, for helping us for that project. And the funding to do this was all raised through the PAL Foundation.
Please come get about 100 more of those.
You've got more? Okay. Well, these guys can build bridges, so we could have fun with that.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, next photos are some photos of the completed trail. We just finished this up right before Christmas. Now we have a total of 9.4 kilometers. Our goal was 10, so we were a little shy of that, but we can work with the loops that we have out there and create 10 if we want to. We've got all kinds of future possibilities, from everything from bringing back possibly the dog sled races to doing cross-country ski races during Winterfest. All ways that we can bring more folks into our community in the wintertime. So I hope this boosts business in the future for those restaurants and establishments that are trying to get folks up to the Cross Lake area in the wintertime. So last picture here. One of the more scenic photos. Our trail expansion goes through a couple of nice groves of mature pines. Anxious to have folks go out there and check that out if we ever get some snow. You can ski out there, but in the summer we do trail tours on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, free tours that the PAL Foundation puts on. And the trail expansion was all put on with funds that were raised through the PAL Foundation. And so we thank PAL for all their efforts for that. And they also raised the money to purchase the groomer that we have for grooming our cross-country ski trails. And this is a picture I took this afternoon of our new groomer. We're anxious to get that up and going. It should be functional here in a couple weeks, and I haven't seen a forecast that's called for any snow in the next two weeks anyway, so I think we'll be all right. There's still not enough snow to groom on the trails. We really need anywhere from probably 6 to 10 inches, closer to 10 inches after it gets compacted. So we're looking forward to more snow and getting people out into the woods to experience the property that we have out there. And we couldn't have done this without Crow Wing County. I think you see many ways of Crow Wing County and Cross Lake cooperating with one another. Crow Wing County let us use all that land out there to expand these trails. So this is a partnership and an agreement, permits through the county that we did through the years. So we want to thank the county for their participation in providing the Nordic Ridge Ski Trail. So that's the official name of the trail we have. Attendance for the community center last month, 3,733, library 1,646, and we'll be starting tax help at the start of February. If those folks need to come in and get tax help at the community center, they can call to make an appointment. I think we've got the reservation sheets ready now, so if there are any questions, that's my report for tonight.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Job well done, sir.
Public Works, Cemetery. I see only a heading on the agenda. Thank you, Ted. City Attorney?
The only thing I'd add is just for the benefit of the public, in closed session, we just heard an update on pending litigation, but there was no final action taken.
Okay. I don't know if there's any old business, but one of the things I would like to do as we move on is keep a list on the agenda of items that are in process, if you might call them that, things that we've got that we're working on that we may forget or that are not here. A couple of those are, that I can think of as the Bilski application, and the other one is the access roads on, or access routes along some of the roads here in Cross Lake on the chain. New business. Any new business? After all of that?
I have one question on the new
Yes, sir.
business. These ponds that were created along Highway 3, the
Yes.
golf course, are they going to be fenced by somebody? They're on city property? Are they on the golf course property? There's some pretty deep ponds out there,
Yes, there are.
and I'd hate to see some little, with these kids golfing out there and they're hunting for balls, fall in there.
I understand it's all in the county right away, other than they did get some easements and right-of-way acquisition from those individual property owners. So something I could refer back to the county or ask them and bring back to the next meeting if you want me to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does the council agree with that? Should we go back to the county and talk to them about that?
I'll ask them if they, what their intent is with the ponds.
Appreciate it, Ted.
Future intent.
Thank you. Any other new business or old business, whichever you want to call it? Does anybody dare come up for the public forum at this late night? Uh-oh. Mr. Lowmiller's been sitting in the back of the room going, you know, meeting's dragging on, but guess who's coming? What do
I
you got, Ted?
just want to make a comment, on this equipment that we're looking at. The staff has done its due diligence.
I appreciate that.
It's up to you guys to figure out how to pay for this stuff now. And I realize that you're looking at this year, next year.
Right.
Anything that's in that 5-year capital plan, whether it's the street man or whatever, you guys can move it on back down. That's your decision, but you have to make a decision one way or another, please. It gets very frustrating from the staff level that we keep bringing these things forward and they keep getting kicked back. We'd like a decision somehow, one way or another. We are your people to get it done on the ground.
Yep,
We need your help.
appreciate
So
that.
one way or another. Equipment, the only other thing I got is, I need a decision on this equipment soon. The state contract has run out on the purchase of this new equipment. I've tied it up through January here. After January, the new bids won't be till March or April, the next chance. So I need a decision soon. So in this next meeting, I would like, one way or another, please.
If our financial folks can ease our minds, you'll have a decision at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowmiller, our fire chief.
I'm just going to reiterate, this is my third year coming up here for an engine, and it's our frontline engine. They're getting older and older.
Yep.
I have 2 engines that are 20 years old. If we don't purchase this engine soon, we'll be buying 2 engines at $1 million. Okay, I cannot get a grant for this truck. Our
Oh, is that right?
property taxes in our city is too rich to get a grant for this. I do get lots of grants for other equipment. However, I really don't think I would get an AFG grant. And you've been a part of this a lot and haven't really seen that in a city like ours. Just to give you a little history, past 10 years, we've had $475,000 donated from citizens in the Cross Lake area. The city's paid out $650,000 in equipment. A couple years ago, we purchased an engine 2 with a donation to bring our ISO rating down to a 7. Pretty soon, if we get tested again, our ISO might go back up to an 8 because of the old engines. My number one concern is the safety of my firefighters in a fire situation using that engine. The second thing is, back to the ISO rating, if we do go back up to an 8, on an average of a $500,000 home on the lake, it'll affect their insurance by $300. It'll go up. So businesses will be 4 or 5 times that much. So I just wanted to bring that attention to you. My truck, after the end of this month, will go up to about $502,000. So every 5-6 months, it's going to go up about 30-40 grand. So we need, like Ted said, we need to make the decision soon. I've been working on this, like I said, for 3 years, and we're just going to keep backing us up against a wall, and pretty soon you're going to have to pay $1 million for 2. So I've had this in capital outlay for many years,
We set aside money in the past, but we don't know where that money went. So I hope you guys can, if you have any questions, you want to call me and meet, discuss it, I can go over my equipment I have over there. And I'd like to move forward with this rather than wait. Okay, thank you.
Chip, I appreciate your comments. I did ask you about what would happen if our rating, I find it interesting, when the rating goes down, we're better, when it goes up, we're worse.
Right.
And I did ask you about that, and I appreciate the comment tonight on what, you know, it makes our real estate tax kind of pale when you look at the fact that individuals will pay, just because we didn't pay for this or buy this, our real estate tax may get hit by a significant number.
Thank you.
Or our insurance will get hit by a
Insurance.
significant.
Right.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Any other comments? Is that the public forum? Public forum is closed. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.